What's up YouTube, Magnus here. Today we're building an encased greave, which I think is a pretty cool design. Before we get started though, remember that you can pick up all the patterns and artwork from my projects on my website and my Etsy shop, link in the description down below. You can also pick up the same patterns and artwork on a month-to-month basis from my Patreon, so have a look at that. And hey, if you want to help support the channel even more, I've been designing some shirts. Maybe I'll put some pictures of them here. You can pick those up on my website, so have a look. This video is brought to you by LONSDALE Leather. You can check the description of this video for links to their website where you can find all sorts of leather, tools, and supplies. The first thing you're going to want to do is cut out your pattern and tape it together. For my regular subscribers, I'm going to do something a little different with this video that I've seen a few other leather workers do recently, and I wanted to see how it worked out. We're going to tape this pattern directly to the leather, we're going to punch through it, and we're going to cut through it. We're leaving a little bit of extra on the edge so that when we tape down the pattern, we're not taping over the cut lines. First thing you're going to do is punch all of your holes. Once the holes are punched, you're going to just follow the lines and cut your piece out. Make sure your blade's nice and sharp. I always drop my blades before I cut anything. Once we've got everything cut out, we're going to just repeat the process for the other pieces. It's pretty straightforward. You punch your holes, you cut it out. These holes here won't be on the pattern you download because I've changed the process during this video. You'll find out. Same thing here. Bevel your edges front and back. I'm using a number 2 beveler. Once you do this one piece, do the other pieces. I love carving leather. I've drawn this design specifically for this greave. We're going to tool it up really quick. I've got lots of videos on how to do leather carving, so I don't want to put too much time on here. But we're just going to go over it really quickly. First of all, we're going to wet our leather. We're going to let it dry for a little while until it's slightly cool to the touch. And we're going to take a stylus and use our stencil to imprint the leather with our design. After the design's imprinted, we're going to take a swivel knife and we're going to cut all of our lines. I use a filigree, really sharp angled ceramic blade. I always polish it up before just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And once all these lines are cut, we're going to bevel all the lines. Now, most of the lines that we're going to bevel are creating depth, so anything where the knot is weaving under and over needs the proper bevel, and obviously around the whole outside of our piece needs a bevel to help pop it out from the rest of the leather. Once those bevels are done, we're going to background just anything that's locked inside the lines, and that just adds a nice look to it. You could bevel all the lines everywhere and not background at all, and it would pop your piece out and it would still look pretty cool. It really depends on your taste. I've got these 3 backgrounders. They're all the same texture, but different sizes obviously, and I thought I might need the smaller ones for this piece, but because of the size of these background areas, I really didn't need the smaller ones, so I just used the larger one for the whole piece. To stay consistent, I should have oiled this piece here before dyeing it. I end up oiling the carving later because I wanted to experiment with something. In the end, everything worked out fine, but you should stay consistent in your process. Once you've dyed this, dye the other one as well. Same thing. A few coats, Pro Dye goes on light unless you put oil on it. So here I'm going to oil it up and then I'm going to paint with dyes. The reasoning behind putting the oil on was I thought it might help me paint with the dyes a little easier. The dye wouldn't run away from me because it has a bit of resist built into the leather. And it actually worked out pretty good. The dye didn't race away on me. I would recommend you guys giving it a shot. It looks a little blotchy, but once you get your antique down and your finish on it, it turned out pretty nice. After you've got all your dyeing done, this is where you should be doing your edges. I don't know why, for some reason, I did my edges after I put my finish on. But if you put a finish on and then you go to do your edges and you're handling it and you're burnishing the edge, you have a chance of rubbing off the finish on the edge and just making a messier project. So just do your burnishing before you do your finish. I'm just spraying it with some acrylic Resin. And then after the Resolene, I'm going to put a little bit of dark brown antique on there. There was some guck buildup, so it wasn't coming out easily, and then it came out really easily. I think this is an ongoing joke by now. I've had this bottle of antique for 4 years maybe, and I'm really not sure how I haven't emptied it already. After your antique dries, another coat of acrylic Resolene just to seal it all in. Now I'm doing my edges with some Tokonole. Tokonole is a Japanese product. It's really good though. It's a little messy, but it's really good. But again, I would have done this first and then done my finish on things. I haven't been using Tokonole that long. I do really like it, but if you guys in the comments down below know of a better way to be putting it on than what I'm doing, feel free to pipe up. I'd love to hear it. Once we've got all that done, we're going to buff up the tops, make sure there's no scuffs. This is a good way to do your thread. You can lock it in by going back through it. I'm not locking any of my stitches down through this. I'm just looping it all the way through and being done with it. You guys can stitch this however you want to stitch it. I've done a saddle stitching video before where you're locking your stitches on every single one. Sometimes I care, sometimes I don't. I didn't really care for this project, so here you go. I think that's looking pretty slick. Now we're just going to stitch the carving onto the other piece. Obviously, you can rivet this piece right onto here. You don't need to hand stitch everything like a lunatic. My original concept for these greaves was I was going to do 6 buckles on each greave. You were going to buckle the front and back together, and it would just adjust both sides like that. I decided to change my mind around here. I'm going to do 3 buckles on each greave, and you're going to mount directly to the back piece, so the front and back are connected. And these slot punches here, because I decided to do a little fancier connection off the front. You can use this technique on all sorts of projects, and it has a really cool look to it, so just keep an eye on that. There I'm just cutting away the extra because now we don't need 2 holes for rivets, we just need the 1. Obviously you don't need to be using solid brass peening rivets for this project. You can use regular rapid rivets from a leather shop. There are so many different shapes and sizes to legs. You're going to have to play a little bit to get everything perfect for you, especially the strapping. The general idea is you're going to take the front and back, strap everything up, and then you're going to mark some holes to see where you want to rivet the buckle sides onto the back of your greave. Here I'm stitching a keeper inside out. This is how I do stitched keepers now. I stitch them inside out, and then once they're all stitched, I take some needle nose pliers, open them up, and then I flip them outside in, inside out. You know what I'm saying. Once we've riveted the buckle on with 1 rivet, and we've punched our holes in the tongue side of all these straps, we're going to punch a second hole in the buckle, and that's going to be the hole that mounts directly to the back of the greave. All these straps I had left a little long because I wasn't exactly sure where I was going with it, so we're just going to trim them up, mark our holes while the greave is on us, punch those holes, and then rivet the buckle side strap directly onto the back of the greave. Make sure you're obviously doing this around what you are going to wear underneath. And that should be for all your measurements. Before you even get to this point, you should have tested the sizing on whatever you're wearing. Pants, leg wraps, etc., etc. Now you just need to trim off the excess tongue and start over, make another one. Well, I think that greave design turned out great. Hopefully you guys learned something from this video. I sure did, because I hadn't actually made a greave like that before. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for future videos, hit that notification button so you don't miss any of my content, and until next time, keep on being creative in whatever it is you do.